Who here is already obsessed with season 3 of Silo, huh? For those of you who have not yet stepped into the silo, it is, of course, the story of 10,000 of the last people on Earth living underground under mysterious circumstances. Season 2 of the dystopian thriller ended with our first look at life before the silo and a showdown between Juliette and Bernard, and now we are seeing the devastating effects play out. Season 3, meanwhile, is peeling back the layers to show us how the events from 300 years ago outside the silo are the key to their future survival. But this is Silo, of course, so for every question answered, don't worry, 2 more are raised. To get to the bottom of it all today, we have an amazing panel. Please make them feel welcome. Give it up for Silo creator, showrunner, executive producer, Graham Yost. Graham, join us. Star and executive producer, Rebecca Ferguson, everybody. And stars Common. Join us, Common. Ashley Zukerman. Ashley, join us. Come on out. Make them feel welcome, everybody. Jessica Henwick, join us. Give it up. And Alexandria Riley, everybody.
I love you.
What up? Peace, what up?
Hi, SiloCast. Comic-Con, Silo, Comic-Con. Hey, Rebecca, good to see you all. Okay, let's dive right into the season. We're in the middle of the season. Talk to me a little bit about, look, we're 4 episodes into season 3. The latest just dropped last night. What do you find exciting about the fan reaction? Because the fans are so invested in this show. Are you paying attention? Are you engaging? What strikes you about a Silo fan? Common, what do you think?
Well, I mean, a lot of my fan reaction goes on if my good friends, my mother, and my daughter call me and say they like it. They actually really like this season. And I've been super happy to just feel like different people. Like, I was on my flight coming from New York to LA, and the flight attendant was like, man, I'm watching Silo. I said, you watching it? He's like, yeah, I love it. Everybody's watching it. So when you're a part of something that you feel people are responding to it, because we put so much heart and soul into it and we love it, man, it just feels good. We here at Comic-Con, and to be able to share this art with people who care about art, it's just dope. And I like the different walks of life that love it.
Yeah. Jessica, you have something?
Yeah, no, the test for me is whether my mom can remember the title. When I did Game of Thrones and when I did Star Wars, she would just refer to it as like House of Wars.
Sure.
Or Star Thrones, but she can get Silo. So that means that it's good.
That's the sign. Rebecca, look, you've been in like the most iconic, the biggest films, but Silo, there's something about Silo, isn't there? I mean, what do you get from the fans? What do they want to know from you? Talk to me about how it's received for you.
I think I don't like reading comments under YouTube clips, and I started doing it and going down that rabbit hole, and people were like, oh, f off, memory drug. They were like, losing memory, what a stupid idea. And I was like, oh, for God's sake, watch 3 episodes in. It's better than that. And I'm happy we've passed that.
Yeah, you're killing it.
It's more intelligent than just losing memory.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Graham, I mean, it's a bold choice to wait until season 3 to show why the silos were created. Can you talk to me a little bit about seeding that mystery and the before times in the first 2 seasons, and why now is the time to kind of start to peel back the layers and tell the story?
We never forget in the writer's room and on the show that we're all here because of the books that Hugh Howey wrote, the trilogy, Wool, Shift, and Dust. And the first 2 seasons really followed the contents of the first book, Wool. Right. And we knew the second book, which was Shift, which does tell the origin story, we knew that this was the time to do that. The problem with the book Shift is Hugh got away with it, but Juliette doesn't appear until the last page of the book. And we've got Rebecca Ferguson in the show. We're not going to have her just appear in the final scene of the season, so we came up with the story because when you find out how the whole Silo project began, the control of memory was integral to all of that. And so we wanted to have it in her story and then also in the origin story with Daniel's sister getting her memory wiped.
Obviously, this season is focusing on two major arcs that are a mere 300 years apart. How far out did you plan on that kind of parallel storytelling plan for this season?
Well, again, a lot of it was just baked into Hugh's books, but the thing for us in the room was to find the parallels, whether it's the memory thing or it's, just a sense of desperation to find the truth. So Daniel and Helen are on this journey in the origin story, Ash and Jess, to find out the truth of what's going on. They know there's something going on. They don't know what it is. And it was fun to play in that kind of old-time thriller, political thriller kind of story.
Right. So for you guys, for Ashley and Jessica, were you Silo fans going into you joining at the end of last season? How familiar were you?
Yeah, I was a big fan, and I wrote Graham a little note just saying, like, kudos, good job. And then, like, almost a year later, my agent said, hey, do you want to have a call with Graham? And it lasted an hour and a half. He cried, and he pitched me Helen's story from beginning to end, and I just fell in love with it and was like, yeah, I really want to be a part of that.
Once you learn how to cry just to convince people to do shit, everything goes great.
If you learn nothing else from this panel, just cry. You'll get what you want, right? How much crying did you do, Ashley, to get your role?
He didn't have to do any crying. And I got my role on merit alone, not by brown nose.
Wow. Wow.
But I was like a huge fan of the
Yeah.
show, so it's a real gift to join and then for us to be able to create a whole new world within a show that we love. It's a very unique, special experience.
I mean, what were the conversations leading up to this season for you guys on how to approach your storyline? We only got a little bit of a tease of it at the end of last season, so it must have been, like, was it all new to you when it was presented to you? Like, did you know when you shot the bit at the end of the last season what was to come in this season?
I knew everything. Graham pitched me the entire storyline, like scene by scene,
Did I really?
Word by word.
for my approval.
What about for you, Ashley? I mean, was it all laid out for you?
I think I'd read like a number of scenes, but yeah, I don't know. Like maybe my standards aren't high enough. I didn't.
Well, I
really.
remember getting to set and being like, hey, isn't it crazy what happens to your character in that episode? And you were like, what do you mean? And I was
Yeah,
like,
I think. We're getting into tricky territory.
I know,
think,
hard.
We were so close. We were so close. Yeah, more.
I think Graham wisely left out a whole bunch of my story, and also I genuinely just didn't need it. I really loved the show. I worked with Graham before, and I loved his work, and Rebecca and Common and Tim are fine. So like it's I was happy to join. That didn't get a laugh. I obviously think that they're great.
For Common and Alexandria, let's talk a little bit about Camille. I mean, this is a solid team you guys have, Camille and Robert. I mean, but now that Camille's head of IT, it feels like there's a bit of a shift, fair to say, in the dynamic. How would we say that your relationship on screen has developed this season?
It's hurt them. It's definitely hurt them. They're going through it right now. And I'm sad. I'm sad for them. But I think they needed that shake-up. We needed to see how they navigated as two people rather than a unit, because they were so tight. They were so ride or die. But now there's a lot of lying and secrecy, manipulation.
And it's like, I think, Robert Sims' goal was to be like in a certain position and be like in that room. He wanted to be in that room. And for his wife to get that position, you have to have a come to Jesus moment in a way, like, and you got to humble yourself and figure out like, okay, well, we still a partnership, but then his wife is also not sharing information with him.
Yeah.
So, and he's starting, the thing that he really wanted to get to, he's starting to understand that it may not be truth in that. Like, you have an identity in like being a part of the judicial, and then you realize that judicial may not be all that you think it was supposed to be. So now he has to re-shift, rethink, re-up who he is as a person, and do it in the midst of the silo may be in jeopardy of 10,000 people dying. And he doesn't have his partner they used to share everything, pillow talk. It was good. but yeah, things are tough for Camille and Rob right now, but it's such great writing, man, because, you know, at first people used to come to me and say, yo, you the enforcer, and now you see so much more with this relationship and as it goes on, who Robert is.
Yeah, well, selfishly, we don't want you guys to be too happy because we need drama. We need conflict, obviously. There it is. I mean, look, we all know this, I think, in this room, but like, sci-fi is our mirror into real-world issues, truly. And I feel like this show is further evidence of that. Graham, and for any of you, I mean, why do you think sci-fi is that prism through which we can look at the real world? Why does it always work?
I think that it allows us to address things that that make it not a documentary, and we're not getting a lesson. We're just seeing people going through something, and it's not a history lesson. It's we don't know how it's going to turn out. That's the big thing. I mean, you can do a great World War II story, as Ash and I worked on one, but you know how that's going to end. You know, people here in Hall H don't know that everyone dies in Silo in episode 6. No, it doesn't happen. I'm lying. No, but you don't know. And honestly, in the writer's room, we didn't know exactly what was going to happen either. We were following the books, but we also had to come up with our own stuff. But I think the desire for freedom, which is something Juliette is committed to, and the desire for the truth. And I think one reason we love Juliette is because she had no interest in being a hero, no interest in being a leader, and yet ultimately she has to be both.
Yes.
So we are, did you say?
Yeah, I was just going to say too, like, from my experiences of just receiving art, art has changed my life. Like, whether it was music, storytelling, like film, TV, theater, and the ones that were able to change my life didn't preach to me, much to what Graham is saying. They didn't beat me over the head with a message. And I think sci-fi allows you, to go into your imagination, but it's still like gems in there, still lessons of life and teach you about life. It's just, I mean, from when we were young, we used to read certain books that were animated or whatever, and they were teaching us about life, but we were tapping into our imagination. I think sci-fi takes you to that world, and you still could get gems and life lessons when it's great writing and it's not preachy. Yep. Nobody wants to hear that preachy shit.
Well said. Hall H, Bernard lives. Please welcome back Tim Robbins, everybody. Give it up. Come on. Welcome, Tim.
I am alive.
Did you always know this was the plan, Tim?
Yes. Graham told me the story after season 1. And I was, that's really cool.
What can we expect now that he is back in this season from Bernard?
Well, what's really nice about it is the opportunity as an actor to play a completely changed Bernard, not only physically burned across his body, but also just his entire worldview, his entire belief system has been shattered. And what he thought was truth was a lie. And what happens to an individual when they undergo that profound shift? And just a huge gift as an actor to be able to play that.
Graham, was this always part of the plan, bringing Bernard back?
It was. In the books, Bernard dies at the end of the first book, or halfway through and we thought, no, we wanted to do that. We wanted to see what happens when the bad guy becomes part of the resistance. And then the big thing was, well, how did it happen? And we said, well, what about Sims? And then that meant that there's something between Sims and Camille, played by Alex, that all these secrets, and we thought that gives us a real strong place to go.
Let's talk a little bit about memory, because it sits at the heart of this season. It's a weapon used against the people of the silo and as a key to their survival. And not being able to trust your own memory, that obviously takes paranoia to a whole nother level. how do you think that is affecting the dynamics in the silo? For any of you.
Well, you know, there's stuff that will be revealed about the history of this silo and what they went through 140 years ago. We get more of that, and we understand the costs of erasing people's memory, that it could save them, but it's also possible to destroy them. So that's the big part. And really, it's ultimately, what are we without our memories? What are we without the stories? Matt Craven has a great part in the second episode where he lays out with Daniel the importance of memory, but also the destructive power of it, and how do you balance that?
For you, Rebecca, I mean, obviously Juliette, she's a fighter. She keeps fighting relentlessly. Why do you think her will is so strong, and what is she ultimately fighting for?
I think it's not just Juliette's strength that we're seeing, it's human beings' will to survive is what this is about. It's everyone's survival. I was thinking about memory. What was fun to play with was, now it's revealed that a narrative was being forced upon Juliette. And it was fun to play a character who is so strong-minded and so strong-willed, who works on memory, who does things according to information that she's been given, and then all of that is taken away. Yet she knows she's standing opposite someone she doesn't like. But she will keep digging. It's in her DNA to keep asking why. So you had the people who were benefiting from her memory loss, and then you had the old gang who were trying to bring her back. And she was constantly in the conflict of both.
For our other storyline, for Ashley and Jessica, what do we feel comfortable teasing? You've got your showrunner here, no pressure. What can we say is to come in this season for your characters?
I think, I guess the conceit's very clear. For 2 seasons, we've been talking about, I just discovered how to use the microphone. We've been talking about, who built the silos and why are we there, and then now we get to explore that. So that's very clear that that's what the timeline's showing. But I think it's going to be very surprising in what way we decide to show that. I think it's far more interesting and nuanced. And I think the story we think we're watching or we think we're telling is very different.
No, you got it.
She's like, let's quit while we're ahead.
Nice work.
I mean, we should talk. I mean, the relics are a very interesting aspect of the show. They seemed like such a small detail at first, but this season reveals why relics are banned in the silo. How long have you and the writers been working to pay that off, and were there any Easter eggs that were seeded in the early seasons?
A lot of them, frankly, we just discovered along the way. The Pez was not planned. I mean, yes, we take massive donations from the mighty Pez Corporation for the show, but no, we really didn't know that was going to be something, and then it just sort of started to have some resonance in an odd way. And what you find out, this is a bit of a teaser, but in this episode you find out that they don't want relics because they don't want people to remember. And that tangible things can help you, as Matt Craven's character, Victor, says to Daniel, can you find things that you and your sister had when you were kids, and that'll help trigger her memories. And so we know that that's going to be a part of the story in the silo.
So there's a lot going on, needless to say. For Tim and Rebecca, I'm curious, rebellion is obviously brewing. We've got new alliances being forged. We've got Lucas Kyle, Bernard is alive, thankfully. Orla Kent is sadly dead. Camille's willing to do anything. There are conspiracy theories. There's a lot going on. Okay? A lot going on. What can we expect as we wrap this up, as we forge ahead in this season? Rebecca?
Tim?
Pass.
Lots of surprises, lots of revelations, and some pretty damn good entertainment.
There it is. And
I will say really quickly, we knew from the beginning that we wanted this season to start answering many of the big questions. So you will find out how the Silo project began. And that's about all I'll share about that, but that is the goal of the season.
Should I just skip ahead to season 4? Because season 4? What can we expect? It's been renewed. We're getting season 4. Is there anything you can tease that far ahead?
I can tell you that this time next year, season 4 will be on.
There's your exclusive, guys. You're welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here. This has been a thrilling season so far, and we all truly can't wait to see how everything unfolds to set up the final season. Episodes of Silo Season 3 are currently airing exclusively, of course, on Apple TV, with new episodes dropping every week. Don't miss it, guys. A huge thank you to this amazing panel. Thank them, guys. Rebecca, Common, Tim, Ashley, Jessica, Alexandria, and Graham. Make some noise, guys. The cast of Silo. Well, guys, I'd say that's been an amazing debut in Hall H for Apple TV. What do you think? What do you think, guys? Did you enjoy?